Alright guys, hello! Today is day 22, going into day 23. I'm going to start this video by reminding you that there are a lot of outside noises since the weather's getting nice. I apologize if it's a distraction, but I'll try my best to be nice and loud for you. We're still solving quadratics. In this section, we're going to be solving quadratics by a method called completing the square. So make sure you have your notes and your textbook out. That way you can follow along. Now the example I'm going to use is from the textbook, but I'm going to be using the steps from your notes just to make sure you're good to go. Alright, so let me go ahead and get started. The first step with solving this quadratic using the completing the square method is that I need to make sure on one side I have all of my terms of x, any of my constants go to the right side, which means that this 15 is going to move using the inverse operation. So I'd have x squared minus 16x is equal to negative 15. Alright, that's step one. Now step two says we're going to do something with term b. So right here I have the term that's in place of b, and more specifically I have negative 16. So there's a couple things that it's telling you to do here. I'm going to take 16 and I'm going to half it, so I would have negative 8. And then I'm going to take negative 8 and square that answer. So I would actually have 64. So 64 is what I'm looking for in this case. And that leads me to the second part of this step, which is add that answer that you just got to both sides. So I'm going to add 64 to both sides, and that will lead me to step 3. Alright, so I would have x squared minus 16x plus 64 is equal to 49. Alright, then step 3 talks about factoring. We're going to factor the perfect square trinomial. So if you didn't read your notes before that, the purpose of what we just did, the purpose of completing the square, is because once you do this step with your term of b, and then you add that answer to both sides, you are going to produce a polynomial that, when factored, is a perfect square. All right, so think about what you did about midweek before spring break. We said if the very first and the very last term were perfect squares, and then the middle term was twice the product of a and b, then you have a perfect square. So we can factor the left side by saying, not 8, I have x and I have 8 because we should already know that the square root of 64 is 8. We just used that, right? But I have a negative 16, which means I have a negative 8, and then I square that binomial. So I just factored that relatively quickly. I brought down my x. I said, oh, this number right here in that previous step goes in this piece of my binomial. And then I'm going to set the quadratic equal to the 49 that I already have. All right, so looks like we're good on step 3. If we happen to have anything that we need to combine over here, we would. All right, so now step 4 leads you into the previous section, which is we're going to take the square root of each side. So think about last section when we used the square roots to solve for the value of x. We're doing the same thing here. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. When I do that, the square root and my exponent cancel out. I have x minus 8 is equal to not just 7, but I have plus or minus 7 because positive 7, or negative 7 times negative 7 would produce 49. And then I'm going to go through with step 5, which is to solve for the variable. So I'm going to add 8 to both sides. I'm running out of room here. So x would be equal to, remember you have two problems. You have 7 plus 8 and you have negative 7 plus 8. So I have 15 and I have 1, but in set notation, we would say 15, 1. All right, so again, the steps are a little funky. Mostly this piece is a little odd because at first it doesn't look like it has a whole lot of use, but the use of that step is because it's going to help you produce the perfect square trinomial so that you can factor pretty easily and you can utilize the method from the last section. All right, so hopefully with that explanation it helps a little bit more. And I'm just looking through, making sure if I covered everything for you. All right, so this first page is your first set of notes going step by step. Your second page is just another sheet of different examples. And then this page, these are practice problems for you so that you feel confident in what you're doing. With those practice problems, I provided you the answer key so you can actually check to see if what you did was correct or incorrect. Remember, if you get an answer and it's not a whole number, you need to leave the answer as a sum or a difference of whatever information that you have, such as if you have an imperfect square, that's where you would use that. All right, so now for your assignment. You are going to play a game of mathematical clue to figure out what happened in your 6th period algebra class. All right, so as you go through these problems, it will give you some sort of clue. Don't worry about the QR code. We don't have that with this particular template. You have plenty of space to work out your problems, and I think that's it. So, as always, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you. I provided some extra page numbers in your book if you do want some extra examples, and I think that's it. So, I hope you guys are doing well. I miss seeing you, and hopefully I'll get to see you soon. Bye.